Hello, today we're going to review how to solve a quadratic equation with complex roots. So they provide us with the following equation: 3x squared plus x plus 4 equals 0. Now in order to use the quadratic formula, which we have written here, we need to make sure that our equation is written in standard form, which is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It has to be written in this form so that we can gather our information for our a value, our b value, and our c value that we're going to use in this formula. So lucky for us, our equation is already set up that way. So our a value is going to be the number or the coefficient in front of the x squared, which is 3. Our b value is the coefficient of the x term. Now notice there's no number in front of this x. When we have a variable with no coefficient, we know that that coefficient is the number 1. And then our final value, our c value, is the number that's being added or subtracted here at the end, which is the 4. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to solve this equation. So here's our equation again, and here's our a, b, and c value. Now notice I've written out the formula and I've left blank where my values are going to go. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want to get confused or lose this negative that's here. So we're just going to come in and we're going to fill in our values. So our b value is 1, and then we're going to have 1 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3. Our c value is 4, and we're divided by 2a, which is 3 again. And so now we're just going to simply do the math underneath the square root here. So we know 1 squared is just 1. Okay? And then we come over here. And remember, guys, this is a negative 4. So subtracting 4 and a negative 4 means the same thing. So we say negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times 4 gives me a negative 48. So we end up with x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 minus 48, all divided by 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So we go ahead and go a step further and we simplify what's underneath the square root sign here. And we end up with x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 47, all divided by 6. Now we look underneath the square root and we go negative 47. Well, we can't have the square root of a negative. So we're going to need to simplify this square root in order to get rid of that negative. So if you think back to what we learned about using I, or imaginary numbers, we know that the square root of negative 1 is I. So we can say that the square root of 47, or negative 47, is the same thing as the square root of 47 times the square root of negative 1. And so that gives us a final simplification of square root of 47 times I. Because again, square root of negative 1 is I. Now I tried to give a little bit of space between the two because I wanted to make sure you saw that this I is no longer underneath the square root sign, because once we take the square root of it, it comes outside the square root. So now we can rewrite our problem here as x equals negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 47 times I, all divided by 6. So we're almost finished. Now we just need to rewrite our two solutions here. So we're not going to get decimal values. Okay, when we're dealing with complex, we're going to just simplify it as much as possible. So we're going to break this apart into two separate fractions, and also into two separate answers. Okay, so we're going to have negative 1 divided by 6 plus square root of 47 divided by 6, and then we put the I right here on the outside to show multiplication, times I. And now we're going to do the same thing but with minus. Then we're going to say x equals negative 1 over 6 minus the square root of 47 divided by 6 times I. And so here are our final two solutions. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to do one more. And this one here is because we can actually simplify our square root value a little bit more than the previous problem. So I wanted to walk you through this. So it says find all the complex solutions of 11x squared plus 5x plus 2 equals 0. So first we're going to identify our values. We know that 11 is our a. We know that positive 5 is our b. And positive 2 is our c. Now if it was a -2, then our C value would be -2. So just get very careful with your positives and negatives, and just remember that the sign in front of the term or number always goes with that number. Okay, so now we're going to come fill these in. Okay, so we've got our formula up here. We're not sure which letters go where. So we have -b, so we're going to put 5 plus or minus 5 squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. Okay, so now this gives us -5 plus or minus 5 squared, which is 25. Now we have -4. We have -4 times 11, which is -44. -44 times 2, which is going to give me -88, or minus 88. And 2 times 11 is 22. So we're going to go another step further here. We're going to go ahead and simplify what's underneath the square root sign a little bit further. So we have -5 plus or minus the square root of -63. There's that negative square root again, all divided by 22. So we see that negative square root and we need to simplify it. Okay, we want to get rid of the negative and we also want to simplify it as much as possible. So we know, okay, that right off the top we're going to have the square root of -1, okay, because we want to get rid of it. But then we ask ourselves, what factors of 63 contains a perfect square? So meaning what two numbers multiply together to give me 63, one of which is a perfect square. Remember, your perfect squares are 4, 9, 16, 25. And so in this case, 63 is divisible by 9. 9 times 7. So if I break down this square root of 63, -63, it's the -1, okay, that takes care of our negative, and then 9 times 7 is 63. So now we just go, okay, well, the square root of -1 is I, the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 7 we can't simplify, so we're just going to leave it underneath the square root sign. Okay, so 3 square root 7 times I is the simplified version of the square root of -63. So now we're going to come up here and we're going to write our next step, filling in our simplifications that we've done so far. So we're going to have -5 plus or minus 3 square root 7 times I divided by 22. So now we just need to break it down, okay, and break it apart into our two solutions. So we're going to have that x equals -5 plus 3 square root 7 divided by 22. Remember, we put the I out here to the side, times I. And then we're going to have x equals -5 minus 3 square root 7 divided by 22 times I. So here are our final two solutions. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have additional questions or need additional help, please reach out to your instructor. Have a great day.